Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've been getting not increasing amount of mail, but one every couple days of people who are dissatisfied with the channel. They're upset. They're like, I'm listening to it less and less, and the reason that they cite is the terrible audio quality. No, it's not that reason. People seem to have largely gotten over that, or I don't know. They know what they're in for, but it's that the perception is that I'm too soft on a number of things that people want me to be harder on, in particular comic books and problems within comics. And in particular, some of these, the last mail kind of, I don't want to say opened my eyes exactly, but it the question was, why aren't I more angry? I should be angry. As somebody who's a retailer, I should be furious. And I know this is the perception of a lot of people. I know that this is kind of how a lot of people feel. And I do think if you're in the comic publishing business, or you're a creator, or more, you're an editor, you're a manager, you're somebody in leadership, any kind of these kind of roles. If you're a freelance artist or writer, I'm not, one of the hard truths I think everybody has to digest is that your power is relatively limited. But if you work for one of these companies, I think you do need to digest a little bit that there are very angry people, and it's not this tiny fraction of comic buyers who are angry. It's bigger than that. And I don't know what to exactly say other than people should take it a little bit more seriously and should listen to it and try and really get to the root of why people are angry. But we live in a time right now where when somebody is angry, the idea of, hey, let's understand why they're angry is not on the table. I've been looking at weird history, and I stumbled across this bit from John F. Kennedy, of all people, who was saying that when somebody is mad or somebody is outraged, talking about politics, that it's imperative that we really understand why they're angry and not dismiss their anger as performative or fake. Now, definitely some anger is performative and fake, especially on YouTube, and that's probably part of the answer right there why I don't get more angry. I mean, I see these videos pop up in my feed, I listen to them, and at some point it starts to sound very phony to me, and just me. I think in my head, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to come across as somebody who's just like, and another problem with this. I just, it's dull for me. I'd prefer to have no subscribers. I'd prefer not be doing this at all, frankly, then do that, because I bore myself, frankly. I get bored listening to videos like that, and I would get bored talking to videos like that. It's not my goal. My goal is not to try and get 100,000 subs, in that way, or 1 million subs, or whatever it happens to be. It just is what it is. But it's funny because I think there are people really are struggling with this. I think there are, people who are legitimately angry. They don't know what to do with that anger, and they're frustrated with kind of some of what they're being told to do. I'm doing this video talking. I mentioned about the Captain Marvel box office stuff, and one of the key tipping points, I'm convinced, behind that entire kind of anger is that Brie Larson came out and was fairly dismissive and sarcastic toward a portion of the customers. It was it was very much a kind of an attitude play, and I mean, said in the nicest way. I think if I'm like her agent, or if I'm Disney, or if I'm somebody who's advising her on her career, I would say absolutely it's a terrible idea to say things like that, even if it feels good, even if you get some clapbacks on Twitter, even if you get people, yas queen of you kind of stomping down the patriarchy. It's not long-term healthy, because you're building your brand on attacking someone else. Even if that someone else is terrible, building your brand on that is wrong. And to be clear, no, just male viewers of movies are not as a group awful. I think that too much was said about kind of negative review bombing. Was there negative review bombing? Yes, absolutely. Were there groups that decided en masse to go try and tank the film? Absolutely. Anyone who's run a retail establishment, who's run afoul of something, and I've told this story before. I have a comic store, and it was misidentified by a popular YouTuber. We don't need to get into the details by that. That the person and I have long since buried the hatchet over it. But it misidentified, and I had a 50 people come and review bomb my store. And I was not even the store that was the problem in this case. Now, none of these people had actually come and visited. None of these people, but they were saying things like, "I walked into the store and there were cockroaches," and it was lies, and it was basically somebody doing it. And that's wrong behavior and everything else. However, I was able to easily recover from it. Those reviews did go away. Was it good? No. Did it hurt? Yes. Was it a problem? Yeah, for a short period of time. Should it happen? No. But I do think that what we've seen is a lot of people inside these businesses, whether it's movies or comics or everything else, they've taken this troll behavior, which is wrong, and they have made it's not a mountain out of a molehill exactly, because it is a pretty annoying, stupid molehill, but it was still exaggerated. And I think that as a result, whenever you exaggerate something, whenever you take something a little bit further to an extreme, there's a natural counter reaction to to then respond more extreme. And over time, this builds and builds and builds and builds until we have what we have today, which is people kind of angry with me because I'm not more angry. I think people would like to hear me call out Mark Waid and Dan Slott and Al Ewing and the various people who are one time or another rude or offensive to fans, to customers. That's fair. I mean, I think that these people are rude in cases, and they shouldn't be. I think it's self-destructive to the industry. I think it's self-destructive to the books, and ultimately, it's self-destructive to them, because all they're doing is starting to build their brand around this negativity, and they're now caught in a cycle where they have people either cheering them on, or they have people who have sworn them off forever. I mean, I did the video a while back talking about how Mark Waid is going to write Superman. There are plenty of people in there like, I will never give him a dime. The Joe Bennett video, a lot of people saying, I will never give Al Ewing a dime. So you've got a group of people who are thinking that way. And you have another group of people who are like, oh, I love the guy. He hasn't insulted me, so I'll keep spending money. And then you have a third group of people who I think, and this is the majority, who either don't know about any of this or just kind of cheerfully just trying to buy comics, or increasingly they find themselves forced to separate the art from the artist. They're having to go, I'm not listening, I'm not going to think about it. Unfortunately, that group tends to atrophy over time. Eventually, you can't help but think about it. Eventually, you can't help but notice it, and you leave. And I find all this very, very destructive. But there's still, I find little use in getting angry. And, there's being just angry at things tends to take away your power. It tends to take away your ability to rationally think about stuff. It takes away your ability to plan. And pretty soon you find yourself caught, frankly, in the same trap as, say, a Dan Slott, who now is forever tied to this kind of trolly behavior. I think you're taking abilities away from yourself. So I try my best not to get angry. Sometimes I do. And, whenever I do, I find it limits my options. I find it makes things more difficult. I find it takes away some of what I am able to do. And frankly, it burns up time. I've got a lot of things I'm trying to do, be it, between being a parent and getting through all of One Piece and, and running, getting a business back up and going again, running a consulting business, doing the other things I'm doing. It's a lot. Making comics, it's too much for a day. Every time I find myself, completely consumed with rage or with anger or outraged about something, I'm less productive. Look at all the videos we've talked about, people on Twitter who waste hours and hours of their life on that crap. Well, I don't want to be caught in that same trap. I don't want to be caught being angry about things. But not being angry all the time doesn't mean that, your head is in the sand and you're ignoring these problems. It frankly means that you're getting to the business of trying to figure out how to solve it in a different way. That's fundamentally what I'm trying to do. I get information to people get it, they seem happy. That's the happiness I guess I get out of these videos, other than just, passing time while I'm driving, because I get tired of music. But that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. If you need a channel that's angry, there's good news for you. That's a ton of YouTube. I think that, you got lots of options. You don't need one more. If you think that because I don't, start off this thing by talking about, the alt-right menace or the SJW menace or whatever it happens to be on a given day, it doesn't mean there's not still problems. And even though I recite this all the time, comics are too expensive, distribution model is completely broken, where they're selling these things is shrunk to the point that it's not sustaining an audience. The content that's being put out is no longer speaking to the target audience and hasn't found a new one. Lots of problems, lots and lots of problems. And yes, as always, social media shenanigans, behavior, waste of time, outrage, screaming at fans, whatever it happens to be, it's all destructive. It's not helpful. Even somebody who goes on social media and like, I'm just using this to blow off some steam and troll, you're still taking hours away from your time. So hopefully that blowing off steam is really super valuable, because there's the hidden cost is of your productivity of getting things done. That is the hidden cost. I don't know. Um, I'm just, anger is the wrong word. And maybe this gets into the quote unquote dad perch stuff. It's less angry most of the time and more disappointed. Am I disappointed when I see a leading writer talk about eating mushrooms all the time? Am I disappointed when I see comic writers talking about trying to please their fathers? Am I disappointed when I see leading editors at major publishers talk about being depressed and not knowing what it means to keep going, or binge eating pizza at midnight, or owners of companies talking about how much they hate landlords, or like, to me, that stuff doesn't get me angry anymore. I see a lot of these tweets and very rarely am I upset. The most prevailing emotion I have is, this is stupid. It's disappointment. It's disappointment that, with all the possibilities, and this is really, I guess, why I love comics as much. As comics, you can do anything. You have a million stories to tell. You have a huge amount of freedom to say or do whatever you want, and cost effective too. Unlike movies and music and other things, a good artist, a good writer can make worlds. Jack Kirby has made cosmic things that no movie has been able to replicate, and that it won't with Eternals either. Um, there's so much you can do, and you chose this. You chose a long Twitter rant about that there aren't enough black and brown people in a teen book, and that's wrong. You chose this moment to want to go into a huge discussion on cisgender Arab relations and what they mean to Palestine. I just, why? Why in the world is that how you're spending your time? It doesn't make me angry. It makes me just disappointed and ultimately bored. Um, all I can say, from experience, I was more angry when I was younger. As you get older, anger tends to turn to just apathy. And, the people who are saying, why aren't I angry more? I would say, wait a couple years. You'll be where I'm at. Anger is hard to sustain over time, and because you eventually just realize it doesn't do anything for you. Apathy doesn't particularly do anything for you either, but it gets you out of at least thinking about stuff. It moves you along. Your mind naturally wants to gravitate to something that actually has value. So anyway, that's my answer. I just, if I ever meet any of you, I owe you a beer. Let's put it that way. Happy to buy you a beer, unless you're one of these dicks. Unless you're a dick. But even Mumbles gets a beer. Thanks for listening.